"Well, isn't this just spectacular timing?" Xandor Vex muttered, adjusting his ceremonial robes for the 5th time in as many minutes. "The most important declaration in galactic history, and my scales decide today is the perfect day to molt." The Grand Senate chamber of the Galactic Confederation stretched before him, a massive amphitheater carved from rare blue asteroid ore, housing representatives from over 3,000 sentient species. Overhead, the transparent dome revealed the glittering stars beyond, a constant reminder of their cosmic significance. Or, as Xandor preferred to think of it, a constant reminder of how utterly insignificant their problems actually were in the grand scheme of things. "You look fine," his assistant Prax whispered, 4 arms working simultaneously to organize the declaration documents. "Stop fidgeting. The Supreme Counselor is watching." Xandor glanced up to see Supreme Counselor Taloria Nem observing him with 6 unblinking eyes from her elevated platform. The arachnid leader inclined her head slightly, her mandibles clicking in what could have been either approval or a death threat. With arachnids, it was remarkably difficult to tell the difference. "How reassuring," Xandor said under his breath. "Nothing like the threat of possible disembowelment before breakfast." The chamber quieted as Taloria raised 2 of her 8 appendages, signaling the commencement of proceedings. Her voice, amplified by the chamber's perfect acoustics, echoed throughout. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Confederation, we gather today for a solemn declaration, one without precedent in our 10,000 years of unified governance. Senior xenobiologist Xandor Vex will present the findings." That was his cue. Xandor stepped forward, mounting the hovering platform that would carry him to the center of the chamber. He cleared his throat, causing his neck frill to expand involuntarily. Several delegates from the aquatic sectors bubbled in amusement. "Distinguished representatives," Xandor began, gesturing to the holographic display that materialized above him. "For the past 50 cycles, we have monitored the planet designated Sol 3, home to the species known as humans. As you recall, this species declined our invitation to join the Confederation 200 cycles ago, choosing isolation over galactic citizenship." The display showed a blue-green world, spinning slowly. Various gasps and murmurs rippled through the chamber as the image shifted, revealing a planet now wrapped in clouds of ash and radiation. "Following their self-destructive conflict, which we have termed the Terminal War, our observation posts detected massive radiation spikes, atmospheric contamination, and the collapse of their global communications network. After 5 decades of continuous monitoring, I stand before you to officially declare with profound regret that the species Homo sapiens has met the criteria for extinction-level event classification." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, the high-pitched keening of the melodians, the deep rumbles of the stone-bearers, and the telepathic pressure waves from the non-corporeal delegates at the back. Supreme Counselor Taloria clicked her mandibles loudly, restoring order. "Continue, Senior Xenobiologist." "Thank you, Supreme Counselor." Xandor manipulated the holographic controls, showing various desolate landscapes from Earth's surface. "As you can see, no signs of organized civilization remain. Automated probes have detected no radio transmissions, no industrial activity, and no large population centers. The radiation levels in major former metropolitan areas exceed survivability thresholds for carbon-based life forms. It is my scientific assessment that humanity has engineered its own extinction." "How unfortunate," remarked Delegate Quarks from the silicon-based Geode Collective, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. "They showed such promise with their art and music. Their literature was quite moving," added Ambassador Lumi of the Photonic Alliance, her form shimmering with blue sadness. "Their Shakespeare, their Tagore, their Morrison, all lost." "Let's not romanticize them too much," interjected General Drax of the Militant Quadrant, his armored exoskeleton clanking as he leaned forward. "They were extraordinarily violent, even by biological standards. Indeed, I remind the chamber that they declined our membership offer because they refused to disarm their nuclear arsenals. This outcome was, statistically speaking, inevitable." Xandor suppressed a sigh. The military perspective always so binary. While that may be true, General, humanity also demonstrated remarkable resilience and creativity. Their extinction represents a unique loss to galactic diversity. Does this mean we can now access Sol 3 for resource extraction? Asked the representative from the mining guild, practically salivating at the prospect. Their planet contains significant deposits of rare minerals. According to Confederation law, Xandor replied, struggling to keep the disgust from his voice, a planet must be officially declared free of sentient life for 100 cycles before resource extraction can begin. If this declaration is approved today, that timer begins now. Very well, Supreme Counselor Taloria said. We shall now vote on the official declaration of human extinction. Planetary representatives, prepare your... The massive doors at the entrance of the chamber slid open with a thunderous boom, interrupting the Supreme Counselor mid-sentence. A commotion ensued as security drones swarmed toward the disturbance. What is the meaning of this interruption? Taloria demanded, rising to her full height, venom sacs visibly pulsing beneath her exoskeleton. The security drones parted, revealing a figure striding confidently into the chamber. The figure was bipedal, relatively small compared to many delegates, with peculiar external coverings and a mat of fibrous material atop its head. Xandor felt his heart stutter in his chest. It couldn't be. It was impossible. Sorry I'm late, the figure announced in accented but perfectly understandable galactic standard. Traffic was absolutely murder. You would not believe how hard it is to find parking for a stolen Taurian cruiser. The chamber froze in collective shock. Even the gaseous delegates seemed to condense slightly. I understand you are discussing the extinction of my species, the human continued, approaching the central platform where Xandor stood paralyzed. I'd like to register a formal objection, seeing as I'm, not extinct. Neither are the other 50 million of us who escaped Earth before you conveniently stopped looking. Xandor's scientific mind raced through possibilities. A clone? An android replication? Some cruel prank by the Trickster Consortium? But his scanner, always at his belt, confirmed what his eyes refused to believe: Homo sapiens, female, approximately 30 Earth years old, and very much alive. This is impossible, he whispered, before realizing his voice was being amplified throughout the chamber. The human smiled, a disconcertingly wide gesture showing flat, white teeth. Impossible is humanity's specialty, lizard man. Now, who do I talk to about reclaiming our seat in this glorified high school debate club you call a confederation? Supreme Counselor Taloria recovered first, her mandibles clicking rapidly in what Xandor recognized as extreme agitation. Identify yourself, human. The woman performed an elaborate bow, complete with flourishes that Xandor suspected were more mocking than respectful. Captain Elara Quinn, formerly of the United Earth Defense Force, currently of the refugee vessel Horizon's Promise. And you must be the big spider in charge. Love the mandibles. Very intimidating. General Drax slammed a clawed appendage down, cracking the stone of his podium. This is outrageous. Security seize this creature for questioning. I wouldn't, Captain Quinn said calmly, raising a small device. This Deadman switch is connected to the location of our colony ships. If I'm detained, if my vital signs falter, or if this signal stops transmitting for any reason, the coordinates automatically erase. You will never find the survivors. Xandor found his voice at last. Survivors? You claim 50 million humans survived? How is this possible? Our monitoring stations. We're looking at Earth. Quinn interrupted. We weren't on Earth. The moment the missiles launched, our evacuation protocol activated. We had been preparing for decades, ever since your Confederation made it clear we weren't welcome unless we disarmed. She paced the chamber floor, every eye following her movements. Did you think we would just sit around waiting for extinction? Humanity planned for every scenario, including our own stupidity. The terminal war wasn't a surprise to everyone. Those of us who saw it coming built ships, secret bases on moons and asteroids throughout our system. When the end came, we left. But where have you been hiding? Xandor couldn't help asking, professional curiosity overriding his shock. Our surveys of your solar system showed no signs of habitation. Quinn laughed, a sharp, harsh sound. Your surveys. Your technology might be advanced, but your imagination is sadly lacking. We hid in the cometary cloud beyond Neptune, in the shadows of gas giants, in tunnels beneath the surfaces of moons. We adapted, we survived, we waited. And we watched you declare us dead without bothering to look hard enough. The chamber had descended into chaos now, delegates shouting questions, objections, and in some cases obscure religious prophecies about the return of the dead. Silence. Telluria's amplified voice cut through the noise like a blade. When order was restored, she fixed her compound eyes on the human. Captain Quinn, if what you say is true, why reveal yourselves now? Why not remain hidden? The human's expression shifted, becoming something harder, more determined. Because we are tired of hiding. Because 50 million humans need more space than stolen ships and hollowed-out asteroids. Because our children deserve to feel sunlight on their faces and solid ground beneath their feet. She strode forward, stopping directly beneath Telluria's platform. And because we recently intercepted communications about opening Earth for our resource extraction. Our home may be poisoned, but it's still ours. We won't let you strip it for parts while our backs are turned. Xandor couldn't help but admire the audacity. One small human, standing defiant before the collected power of 3,000 civilizations. It was either the bravest or most foolish thing he'd ever witnessed. The Confederation has protocols for refugee species, he said, surprising himself by speaking up. If humanity truly survives in the numbers you claim, you would qualify for protected status and resettlement assistance. Quinn turned to him, eyebrows raised. Well, at least one of you has some sense. Yes, that's exactly what we are after. Protected status, recognition of our territorial claim to the Sol system, and assistance establishing a new colony world. In exchange, we will share everything we have learned about survival and adaptation over the past 50 years. Trust me, it's impressive stuff. General Drax growled, his battle-scarred carapace bristling with aggression. This is preposterous. We cannot simply take this creature at her word. For all we know, she could be the last of her kind, bluffing to protect a dead world. An excellent point, General, Quinn replied smoothly, which is why I brought friends. She tapped a sequence into her wrist device. Seconds later, the massive view screen that dominated one wall of the chamber flickered to life, revealing the bridge of a spacecraft. Dozens of humans sat at control stations, while behind them, visible through giant viewports, floated a vast fleet of mismatched vessels. Some were clearly repurposed mining ships, others appeared to be converted space stations, and still others were of designs Xandor didn't recognize at all. May I present the Diaspora Fleet, Quinn announced, a hint of pride creeping into her voice. 57 ships, each housing between 500,000 and 2 million humans, depending on size. We have been living in space for half a century, gentle beings. We have gotten quite good at it. The chamber fell completely silent, 3,000 delegates processing this revelation simultaneously. Supreme Counselor Telluria's mandibles stilled. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of authority that had made her the leader of the Confederation. Captain Quinn, the revelation of humanity's survival alters today's proceedings significantly. I propose an emergency session to address your people's status and claims. Splendid, Quinn replied. But first, I believe senior xenobiologist Vex was about to make a declaration? Something about an extinction-level event? I'm curious to see if he still stands by that assessment. All eyes turned to Xandor, who suddenly felt his scales itching unbearably under the pressure. Science demanded accuracy above all else. With a resigned sigh, he adjusted the controls of his holographic display, deleting the extinction classification with a dramatic swipe of his clawed hand. Based on new evidence, he announced formally, I withdraw my assessment regarding the extinction of humanity. The species Homo sapiens is hereby reclassified as endangered but extant, with a recommendation for protected status under Confederation law. Captain Quinn beamed at him. See? That wasn't so hard. Now, about that emergency session, I hope you don't mind, but I have invited a few more representatives from our fleet to join us. They should be landing in about. She checked her device, 10 minutes. I hope you have refreshments ready. Humans get awfully cranky when we are not fed regularly. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber as the Confederation's defense systems detected multiple approaching vessels. Oh, don't worry about those alarms, Quinn said cheerfully. I took the liberty of transmitting our recognition codes to your security systems. The ships are cleared to land. I hope you don't mind that I hacked into your network. Old habits, you know. Xandor sank back onto his platform, suddenly exhausted. In the space of 30 minutes, his carefully prepared extinction declaration had been completely upended and the galactic political landscape forever altered. As chaos erupted around him, with delegates shouting for information, security, or in some cases their personal attorneys, Xandor caught Quinn's eye. The human winked at him, a gesture he recognized from his studies of their behavioral patterns as indicating shared conspiracy or amusement. Cheer up, lizard man, she called to him over the din. You are about to witness history. Humanity is back, and trust me, we have learned a few new tricks while we have been away. Somehow, Xandor didn't doubt that for a moment. And despite himself, despite the disorder she had brought to his carefully ordered scientific world, he found he was looking forward to discovering exactly what those tricks might be. Xandor Vex had never seen the Grand Senate chamber reconfigured so quickly. Within an hour of Captain Quinn's dramatic entrance, the central floor had been transformed into an emergency diplomatic reception area, complete with hastily assembled translation units and, at the humans' insistence, refreshment stations offering food and drink compatible with carbon-based physiology. Is this really necessary? General Drax grumbled, watching as human delegates filed into the chamber. They are treating this like some sort of social gathering rather than a formal proceeding. Apparently, humans negotiate better when their glucose levels are maintained, Xandor replied, consulting his datapad. Fascinating adaptation. They require regular caloric intake to optimize cognitive function. Drax snorted, a blast of hot air that singed Xandor's shoulder frill. They are weak, dependent on constant sustenance. In the militant quadrant, we can fight for 16 days without nourishment. And yet, Xandor observed dryly, watching as Captain Quinn efficiently organized her fellow humans, they managed to survive planetary annihilation while hiding from the most sophisticated detection systems in the galaxy. Perhaps there's more than one kind of strength, General. The delegation from the Horizon's Promise consisted of 12 humans, each wearing what appeared to be ceremonial attire, matching dark blue uniforms with silver trim and various insignia that presumably denoted rank or specialty. They were a diverse lot, varying in coloration, size, and secondary physical characteristics, though all shared the same basic bipedal structure. Supreme Counselor Teloria descended from her elevated platform, flanked by representatives from the Confederation's 7 founding species. Her security detail hovered anxiously nearby, mandibles twitching at every sudden movement from the humans. Captain Quinn. Teloria began, her translator rendering her clicks and hisses into smooth galactic standard. The Confederation welcomes the human delegation to this emergency session. However, I must express concern about the manner of your arrival. Hacking our security systems and bringing armed vessels into Confederation space without prior authorization constitutes a serious breach of protocol. Quinn didn't look remotely apologetic. With all due respect, Counselor, when you are presumed dead, scheduling a proper meeting becomes rather difficult. As for the armed vessels, surely you don't expect refugees who have spent 50 years in hiding to travel in unarmed ships? The galaxy isn't exactly a friendly neighborhood, as we have discovered firsthand. An older human stepped forward, her hair silvery white, face lined with what Xandor recognized as age markings. Perhaps we could dispense with recriminations and focus on the matter at hand. I am Admiral Deo Okafor, Chief Administrator of the Diaspora Fleet. We come seeking recognition, protection, and a new beginning for our people. Taloria's compound eyes gleamed with assessment. Admiral Okafor, the Confederation has protocols for handling refugee species, but your case is unprecedented. You claim to represent 50 million humans, yet our records indicate Earth's pre-war population exceeded 8 billion. What happened to the rest of your kind? A pained expression crossed the Admiral's face. The majority didn't make it off-world. Our evacuation efforts were hampered by governmental secrecy, limited resources, and the sudden onset of the terminal war. We saved who we could, primarily scientists, engineers, medical professionals, and their families, along with cultural specialists to preserve our heritage and a genetically diverse population sample to ensure our species' viability. So you abandoned the rest to die? General Drax interjected, his voice laden with accusation. Captain Quinn whirled to face him, eyes flashing. We made impossible choices. While your Confederation watched from orbit, collecting data and making notes for your precious xenobiology reports, we were fighting to preserve some fragment of our civilization. You don't get to judge us for how we survived your neglect, Captain. Admiral Okafor's sharp command cut through the tension. Stand down. Quinn inhaled deeply, visibly composing herself. My apologies, Admiral. General. Zandor found himself moving forward almost involuntarily. If I may, Supreme Counselor, the human delegation raises valid points. The Confederation's non-interference policy regarding pre-member species prohibited direct intervention during the terminal war, but perhaps our monitoring approach was insufficient. Are you admitting error, Senior Xenobiologist? Taloria asked, mandibles clicking in surprise. I'm acknowledging the possibility that our methodologies may require review, Zandor replied carefully. Science demands we adjust our conclusions when presented with new evidence. The humans have provided such evidence today. A tall, broad-shouldered human with dark skin and keen eyes stepped forward. I am Dr. Qasim Nouri, Chief Scientist of the Diaspora Fleet. If the Confederation is truly interested in evidence, I have prepared a comprehensive data package documenting our survival strategies, current population distribution, resource requirements, and proposed terms for reintegration into the galactic community. He extended a data crystal toward Zandor, who accepted it with a slight bow. This will be most enlightening, Dr. Nouri. I look forward to reviewing it. While our scientific divisions exchange information, Admiral Okafor said, turning back to Taloria, perhaps we could discuss the immediate practical matters. Our fleet requires refueling, our hydroponic systems need raw materials, and our people are desperate for open space after generations confined to ships. The representative from the Commerce Guild, a gelatinous being named Director Blob, oozed forward. Such provisions could be arranged for appropriate compensation. What do humans have to trade? Quinn laughed, a sharp bark of sound. You will find we have become quite resourceful. The Diaspora Fleet possesses technological innovations born of necessity, advanced recycling systems, radiation-resistant crops, energy-efficient life support. Not to mention the cultural artifacts we salvaged, art, literature, music. All unique in the galaxy, all suddenly rare commodities given our supposed extinction. And let's not forget, added a wiry human woman with elaborate facial markings, the 50 years of astronomical data we have gathered while hiding in the outer reaches of various star systems. We have mapped regions your survey ships never visit, documented phenomena your scientists haven't observed. Zandor couldn't contain his excitement. You have unexplored astronomical data? Multiple star systems? This could advance our understanding of cosmic evolution significantly. Indeed, Dr. Nouri confirmed with a slight smile. Commander Patel here has overseen our scientific reconnaissance efforts. Maps of the galactic arm extending beyond the Perseus void would be of particular interest to your astronomers. The atmosphere in the chamber had shifted subtly. What had begun as a confrontation was evolving into something resembling a trade negotiation. Xandor noticed representatives from various guilds and alliances edging closer, clearly intrigued by what these supposedly extinct humans might offer. Supreme Counselor Taloria raised two of her limbs, silencing the growing murmurs. It seems there is potential for mutual benefit here. However, there remains the matter of your legal status and territorial claims. You mentioned Sol System, your original home. What exactly are you proposing? Admiral Okafor straightened, her bearing regal despite her advanced age. We propose that humanity be granted protected species status under Confederation law, with Sol System recognized as sovereign human territory. Earth itself remains uninhabitable for now, but we intend to establish colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan, while we develop technologies to eventually reclaim our homeworld. Additionally, she continued, we request assistance in identifying suitable extrasolar planets for colonial expansion. Our population grows, despite our circumstances. We need room to thrive, not merely survive. General Drax slammed his appendage down again, cracking yet another section of his already damaged podium. This is outrageous. They disappear for 50 cycles, then return demanding territory and expansion rights? Where is the accountability for their self-destructive behavior that poisoned their own planet? An excellent question, General, Admiral Okafor responded calmly. The architects of the terminal war perished with Earth. Those of us who escaped, and our children born among the stars have lived with the consequences of our species' failure. We have had 50 years to reflect on our mistakes while fighting daily for survival. I believe that constitutes accountability. She gestured to her delegation. Look at us, General. We are not the humans who rejected your Confederation's invitation 2 centuries ago. We are the descendants of those who recognized our species' flaws and worked to preserve what was worthy. We come not to repeat history, but to write a new chapter. The chamber fell silent as her words resonated through the vast space. Even the normally voluble gaseous delegates in the upper tiers seemed to pause their constant swirling. Xandor found himself unexpectedly moved. There was something profoundly compelling about these survivors, these fragments of a civilization that had faced extinction and refused to accept it. He activated his communication implant, sending a private message to Supreme Counselor Taloria. Supreme Counselor, if I may suggest, the scientific value alone of studying humanity's adaptation strategies would benefit countless species facing environmental challenges. Their technological innovations, developed under extreme duress, could advance multiple fields. From a purely objective standpoint, reintegrating humans into the galactic community presents significant advantages. Taloria's response came after a brief pause. Your scientific curiosity is noted, senior xenobiologist. But there are political considerations beyond research potential. She addressed the chamber at large. The Confederation must consider precedent. If we grant these terms to humanity, other non-member species might fake their own extinctions to gain favorable treatment. Captain Quinn snorted loudly. Yes, because irradiating your homeworld and living in recycled mining ships for half a century is such a clever negotiating tactic. We highly recommend it. Several delegates actually laughed, a cacophony of hoots, whistles, and vibrations that momentarily disrupted the translation systems. The human has a point, remarked Ambassador Lumi of the Photonic Alliance, her form brightening with amusement. This hardly seems a strategy others would emulate. Taloria's mandibles clicked in what might have been exasperation. Very well. I propose the following: a provisional acceptance of humanity's protected status, recognition of their claim to uninhabited bodies within Sol System excluding Earth until decontamination plans can be evaluated, and the formation of a joint commission to assess potential colony worlds beyond their home system. She fixed her compound eyes on Admiral Okafor. In exchange, humanity will share all technological and scientific developments from their period of isolation, agree to Confederation oversight of any military capabilities, and formally apply for Confederation membership with a path to full integration within 20 cycles. Admiral Okafor conferred briefly with her delegation before responding. We accept these terms with one modification. Confederation oversight of military capabilities applies only to operations outside Sol's system. Within our home system, we maintain full defensive autonomy. After what happened last time, can you blame us for wanting to control our own backyard? Captain Quinn added. Besides, our fleet has gotten pretty good at hiding from you. Enforcement would be challenging. General Drax bristled visibly, but before he could object, Telluria responded. Acceptable, provided all human vessels operating beyond Sol's system register their capabilities and submit to standard Confederation peacekeeping protocols. Agreed, Admiral Okafor said firmly. Telluria rose to her full impressive height. Then by my authority as Supreme Counselor, I declare this provisional agreement in effect, pending formal ratification by the full Senate within 10 cycles. Humanity is officially recognized as an endangered but extant species under Confederation protection. The Extinction classification is permanently rescinded. A mixture of reactions swept through the chamber, approving hums, concerned murmurs, excited bursts of light from the photonic delegates. Politics as usual, Xandor thought. But something extraordinary had happened today, something unprecedented in Confederation history. As the formal proceedings concluded and the chamber began to empty, Xandor approached Captain Quinn, who was sampling a selection of exotic fruits from the refreshment table. Captain, if I might have a moment of your time? I have numerous scientific questions about your fleet's survival strategies. The adaptation mechanisms you must have developed, they are potentially revolutionary. Quinn regarded him with amusement, biting into a bright purple fruit that released a cloud of aromatic spores. Curious after all, lizard man, and here I thought you were ready to write us off as a failed experiment. Xandor's neck frill expanded slightly in embarrassment. Science requires us to follow evidence, not assumptions. Today's events have challenged many of mine. Fair enough, she replied, wiping juice from her chin. Tell you what, I will give you a tour of the horizons promised tomorrow. You can see how we have managed firsthand. Fair warning, though, our adaptations might not be what you expect. How so? Xandor asked, intrigued. Quinn's expression turned thoughtful, almost solemn. We didn't just change our technology, Xandor. We changed ourselves. When survival is on the line, you'd be amazed what becomes possible. Before he could question her further, Admiral Okafor called her away to assist with arrangements for the delegation's accommodations. Xandor watched her go, his scientific mind racing with possibilities. What had she meant by changing themselves? Genetic modification? Cybernetic enhancement? Some entirely new form of adaptation? Fascinating species, aren't they? The voice came from beside him, Ambassador Lumi, her photonic form shifting through subtle gradients of blue and violet. Indeed, Xandor agreed. I have studied humanity extensively, but these survivors, they are something new, something unexpected. Perhaps that is their greatest strength, Lumi observed, with the capacity to become unexpected. Most species follow predictable evolutionary paths, but humans seem to reinvent themselves through sheer force of will. Xandor considered this as he watched the human delegation preparing to depart, their animated conversations and expressive gestures so different from the formal interactions typical of Confederation proceedings. They moved with a vitality that seemed almost defiant, as if every breath, every heartbeat was a victory against the extinction that had so nearly claimed them. Later that evening, as Xandor updated the Confederation's xenobiological database, he found himself pausing over the human entry. For centuries, it had remained largely unchanged, a record of a species that had chosen isolation over integration. Now, he faced the task of documenting their remarkable resurrection. After careful consideration, he added a new notation to the official record. Humanity's defining characteristic may not be their technology, their culture, even their intelligence, but rather their extraordinary refusal to accept finality when faced with extinction. They did not merely survive, they transformed. The species that has returned to the galactic community is not the same one that faced annihilation, but rather a new iteration forged in the crucible of near extinction. The scientific, cultural, and political implications of this transformation remain to be fully understood, but one conclusion seems inescapable. Any species capable of redefining itself in the face of its own destruction must never again be underestimated. As he finished the entry, his communication implant chimed with an incoming message. It was from Captain Quinn, containing coordinates for his tour of the horizons promised the following day, along with a personal note, "Bring an open mind and a strong stomach. Lizard Man. What we have become might shock your delicate scientific sensibilities. But trust me, extinction was never an option for humanity. We have got too much unfinished business with the universe." Xandor couldn't help but smile, his scales shifting color with anticipation. The human extinction that had never happened was about to launch a new era of scientific discovery. And somehow he suspected it would be just the beginning of humanity's second act on the galactic stage. They had declared humanity extinct, only to have a living, breathing human walk into their Senate. Whatever came next would undoubtedly defy all expectations, which, he was beginning to understand, was precisely what humans did best.